Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be making a video about Netflix original Back in Action. This is an action movie that came out on Netflix a couple weeks ago, starring Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz. And for the most part, this movie is incredibly generic. There's not a whole lot going on with this movie that's special. So typically, I try to stray away from talking about streaming movies on their own, unless they're really, really good or really, really bad. So why am I talking about this movie, you might be asking? Because it reminds me a lot of a couple of other movies that I wasn't expecting it to remind me of. So, first off, I want to go ahead and state the obvious. This is a generic movie that came out on Netflix where they take two big stars and they're like, okay, we're going to put them in kind of like an action-y premise. And they do this all the time. Like, I could show you a giant list of movies that they have on Netflix on their catalog that is almost exactly like this movie to a T. And so, it's not necessarily that unique that a Netflix movie feels familiar. But there's one thing particularly about specifically Back in Action that I liked that I kind of wish if they had done this intentional that it would be really cool. So overall, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and just say like one of the biggest comparisons you can make from this movie to just other movies in general. This movie is about a couple that are spies. Obviously, it's going to draw comparisons from movies like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's one of the first movies to do this trope, and I think for the most part, it does a really good job with this trope. But if I had to go ahead and say what movie this movie really reminded me of, it was the first Spy Kids movie. I don't know what it is, if it was just like the general overall vibes of the fact that like the parents are like retired and they're trying to live like this normal life and their kids don't know that they're spies, or if it was the fact that like both of the kids in this movie at some point have some sequence where they're with somebody and they're kind of like, you know, this is in your DNA being a spy or whatever. Like the girl has a scene where she like kicks a soccer ball and she has perfect aim, and the grandma makes a comment about how like, you know how the women in this family are, when they shoot they never miss. And then like the guy, the little son in this movie, has a sequence where he's having a conversation with the grandma's boy toy. I really don't know how else to put it, but that's basically what he is to their grandma or whatever. And he's kind of just like, you know, explaining to him MI6 and all these different things about like the training facility and everything that goes into, you know, becoming a super spy. And he's telling the little kid, he's like, you know, this is in your DNA. Like, this is something your family has always done. They've always been super spies. You probably would be an incredible spy. And the kid's just like, no, I don't think I'd be able to do that. I feel like it would be really dangerous. And then the guy's just like, you know what? Let's test something right now. I'm going to run at you and you're going to just do whatever first comes to mind. And then the kid, surprisingly, gut punches the guy, and it's like really, really good. And he's like, oh my God, what? I had this in me the entire time. And like, is it cheesy? Yes. Is it entertaining? That's up for debate. But what I really liked about it is it kind of almost made it seem like these kids are probably going to go into some kind of spy related field, which I think is an interesting premise of a family of spies, which I'm sure has been done before, but specifically two kids that are spies. I don't know if you guys know this. Netflix recently actually acquired the rights to the Spy Kids movies. Like, I think that they have technically all of them belong to Netflix. They can stream them however many times they want. And specifically, a couple years ago, they made a Netflix original Spy Kids movie. And I don't like to speak ill of movies, but that movie sucked ass. It was really, really bad. It completely ruined almost the entirety of the Spy Kids like franchise to me, because like the Spy Kids franchise does a really cool job with like, here's this gadget, here's this gizmo, here's this really cool, ridiculous, over-the-top plot, here's a villain who's absolutely chaotic. And then they had that movie where like the way that the kids won with kindness. No, that was terrible. But then you have movies like this one where this is like an actual interesting spy movie, right? Like, obviously, like I said, generic. They do a lot of things that have been done before. But that being said, it's still fun. Like, there's a lot of action in this movie. There's a lot of humor in this movie. And I think that there is a world where they make a sequel to this movie and tie it into the Spy Kids franchise and make the two main leads of this movie the two kids in this movie. Because for the most part, like I said, they had little scenes like that where they were setting up that these kids potentially could be spies if they wanted to, or if they had the right training. And then at the end of this movie, they decided to kind of set it up for a sequel. Obviously, whether or not this movie's going to get a sequel, we don't know. Netflix likes to greenlight the randomest projects, so if somebody came up to them with a plot for Back in Action 2, I'm sure they would sign it immediately and be like, let's do this thing, because why renew your Academy Award-winning TV shows when you could renew a random action movie that did not need to be made in the first place? I love you, Netflix. You're chaotic. You're strange, but hey, whatever works. But for me specifically, if they were to make a Back in Action 2, I would be slightly tempted to see it if it goes in the direction that I'm currently thinking, which is the parents, for people who have not seen the movie, the way that it ends and the way that it sets up a sequel, the parents are finally like gonna get like a weekend alone without the kids, and they get into their car and they're really excited to go drive off somewhere. And then in the backseat is one of the guys who is from, you know, the MI6 that they worked with or whatever, and he's like, I need your help again, actually. And they're like, no, we're taking a vacation, we're taking our time off. And he's just like, no, but the guy who you defeated in this movie, we didn't discover his body, so we actually need your help, and we need you to recruit somebody in your family. And I was like, they're doing a Spy Kids, and then instead it was a stupid twist, and they're like, your dad was also a spy, and it's like, Netflix, come on! But that being said, something that they could potentially do in a sequel, if they were to do a sequel, which, by the way, I'm not recommending they do a sequel, but if they do a sequel and they do what I want them to do with the sequel, I would watch the sequel, okay? I am guilty of that. But if they had them go on that mission, right, try to find the body of the person who they did not find the body of, you know, try to figure out if he's still alive, if he did go into hiding, try to take him out of hiding and, you know, put him in jail where he should be, and they need to find their dad for that, I think it'd be really, really cool if they make a premise of this movie where the you know, parents are busy off on a mission and they, you know, are going to go find their father. And meanwhile, while that happens, either they get captured and then the kids have to go and save their parents, which is a very typical Spy Kids trope, or they're busy on that mission and then something happens to their grandmother, who is now in danger and kind of, you know, outed as like being a super spy or whatever. And the grandkids have to work together with the grandma to save, either in the first scenario, they'd have to go save their parents, or to, you know, just help save their grandmother. And I think that it would be a really, really cool concept if we have like this grandmother training these two kids on how to be super spies, and then they go and they save their parents. And then there could be like a whole giant family reunion situation where like the grandmother gets to, you know, see her ex-husband, and there could be a fun dynamic there. The kids get to, you know, test out cool gadgets and gizmos. The grandma's boy toy or whatever gets to steal more of the spotlight because both of the parents wouldn't be in it as much, which, by the way, Netflix, it'd be cheaper for you because you don't have to pay Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz as much if they're not there in the entire movie. You're welcome. I'm helping you out. Why am I doing that? But yeah, overall, I think that it would be a fun premise. We need more Spy Kids movies. They need to stop making the Spy Kids movies tame. The last Spy Kids movie, they didn't have like any gadgets or gizmos. The whole point of what makes Spy Kids cool is that they get gadgets and gizmos. You ruined that for me, Netflix. So now, I'm giving you a sequel where you can make these kids into Spy Kids, and it'd be really cool. Please do it. Or don't. Because I don't want you guys making a sequel of a stupid movie that didn't need to be made in the first place. But also, if the sequel's a Spy Kids... Anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much this entire video. That was everything I wanted to talk about. It started off as a feels familiar, and then it became me pitching a sequel to this movie. And I think I hated everything about that. So that's my bad. But yeah, overall, that was pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching through the entire video. If you are still here, I'm going to be signing out now. Peace out. Bow. Bow. Bow.